With the latest manga series I have read, it definitely confirms that Yoko Nogiri still continues to be one of my favorite shoujo manga creators. Her latest series, I think, might be my official favorite by her. Hello friends, happy Friday. So very excited for this review. In fact, this is the first manga from my list of, I think it's 2023 reading goals, which I will leave here. I unfortunately dropped Maid-sama, but with this manga, it was my first one. That is Those Not So Sweet Boys. It is 7 volumes. It is an amazing and wonderful series. And I'm just like, why did I wait so long to complete this? Because I actually did review volume 1 when it first came out. I got a digital arc from NetGalley. I do have a review up on this channel, I'm pretty sure. And shortly after that, I got a bunch of volumes for my birthday. I don't know when the volume 1 released, but when I was leaving reviews on Amazon, I bought like 3 or 4 volumes for my birthday. And I was like, what happened, Laura? I was like, you didn't finish reading the series, but here we are with the series read. In fact, I read this entire series in one day because I just could not put it down. These characters were so engaging and really just took me on an emotional roller coaster that was just absolutely delightful. I mean, there was one volume that I totally confess that I have not felt in such a long time. I wanted to throw my manga across the wall or across the room because I just was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that character made the decision that they did. Now, of course, I didn't actually throw my manga against the wall or across the room, but I did just slam it on my bed and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need the next volume ASAP, or I need to read the next volume ASAP to see what happens, because just no. But I should always trust this manga because her work is amazing, and I was very, very happy with the developments in the following volume, and so everything was okay. However, in case if you're not familiar with Those Not So Sweet Boys, that is a wonderful story, and it's by Yoko Nogiri, who has written That Wolf Boy's Mine and what's the other one? Love in Focus. She has written both of those. They're both really great. I do have video reviews of both of them on this channel. So what is this manga about? So it is about our main girl here. Her name is Midori, and she is a young woman in high school, and she gets caught from leaving her job one day. I was trying to think of how I wanted to start that, but yeah, she's working to help provide for her family because her father got their family in a bunch of debt, and then he just left the debt stuck with them. And so Midori went to go get a job to help ease the financial burden in her family, and as she's leaving work one day because she's in her school uniform, she gets caught by the chairman, and the chairman's like, you're not supposed to have a job, but I have an idea, or I have where we can sort of meet in the middle. You could keep help you get a job that meets with the guidelines of the school, and you could do me a favor. And that favor is to help get these 3 guys back to school, because rumor is that they were suspended. There was like a rumor that they hit a teacher. There was a rumor that they were smoking, just bad stuff all the way around. And so they got suspended and they haven't come back to school yet. The chairman is basically like, Midori, if you become their babysitter and get them to school, then I'm going to help you get a job that I approve of, and you can continue to help provide for your family. She's like, well, this shouldn't be too bad. This is a weird request, but she's like, okay, I'll do it, because before or after, somewhere in there, Rei here, one of the guys, he helps Midori get her wallet back, because on the first day of school, she drops her wallet and these guys were not going to give it back. He helps get back her wallet, and the thing is, she really wants to thank him because he just left. He gets the wallet back for her and he just goes about his way. She sort of feels that this is an opportunity that the chairman presents to actually get to thank him and get to know him, but it's so hard because these guys are so tight-knit and they don't really let anybody in their inner circle. There is so much I want to say about this story, but I definitely feel like this is the best manga by this manga creator yet. It just blew me away. It's very engaging, and it has all of those qualities I feel like that Nogiri is known for, where you have these very strong heroine, you have these very likable guys, and yes, you have this beautiful romance. I love the romance, but I feel like Nogiri is just, for me personally at this point, is known for having strong themes of family, forgiveness, and reconciliation, which is exactly what this manga has. I was thinking the other day, I've said it more than once, that I really love when I'm reading a shoujo manga specifically, and I'm like, I'm here for the romance, and then I get so much more. I honestly feel like I say that a lot, and I was like, well, why do I say that? And I think often when I go to start a shoujo manga, I'm like, I'm just here for the romance. And that was definitely the case with those Not So Sweet Boys. I came for the romance, so my expectations are just give me a great love story. And so when I'm here just for that love story, I feel like my expectations are always exceeded when you get these other powerful themes, like I was saying, of the family, the forgiveness and reconciliation, and healing as well, that when I get those, then I'm like, wow, this is so much more than I expected. And I honestly feel as this series continues throughout each volume, that is exactly what happens time and time again. I mean, yes, the story is about Midori, but I feel like it's ultimately about these guys and you being on this journey, emotional journey with them and seeing them grow as characters, as individuals, as friends, and making friends with other people, not just within their tight-knit group. They did not love going to school, and Midori helps bridge that gap where she helps trying to dispel the rumors to get them to engage with their classmates, to enjoy coming to school, to feel like there's value and meaning, and that they're not just being stared at, they're not just being talked about, because all of these guys are very prestigious. His father, his family has like one of the most prestigious businesses in Japan, is very wealthy and very iconic. This guy belongs to a Yakuza gang, or his family is a gang, and this guy here, I think he belongs to a family of very prestigious doctors or doctor like clinics that are in Japan. So all of them are well known, like their families are, but their actions are well known for different reasons that don't necessarily reflect well on their family, or maybe it's not that their actions like reflect negatively on their family, but because of their family, there is a lot of rumors about them that aren't necessarily positive. Case in point with the Yakuza gang. And so Midori really tries, like I said, to help bridge that gap, and that is a large and huge part of this story. And it was so rewarding and so beautiful, especially as you get to see the backstory of each guy and why they do sometimes what they do. I mean, you don't always know because we're not in their heads, so to speak, we're Midori's, but you get to see like, man, some of their families are not the most caring, they are not the most loving, and that there's a lot of hurt and pain and sometimes miscommunication, hurtful assumptions that have brought more pain. And I just I couldn't get enough of, but it feels sort of weird because some of those stories and the things that we learn were really, really hard. I'm not sure which one was the hardest, so to speak, and they don't all have heartbreaking backstories, so to speak, but it really was emotionally moving, especially as you get into the later part of the series and you're getting to the heart, you're meeting other family members. So that was definitely one of my favorite parts of this series for sure, is I really loved just through different situations that happen that Midori is always encouraging these guys to use their words, as like cheesy and cliche as that sounds. Because there, I think it was in like volume 6, I think, or volume 5, Midori tells one of the guys that words exist so that we can communicate and get to understand the other person, because we don't understand them always and we don't know what they're thinking. We're not in their head. So we use words to help bridge that gap and get to know what they're thinking, what's in their head, and come to a solution where everybody is happy. Not just one person, not the person, like in this case, for example, like Midori, not just her, but everyone. And I love that. I love that that theme was continued. I love that she encouraged these guys to genuinely speak with different family members, or, you know, I mean, that like, in one case of point is that sounds really amazing, but that doesn't always work in every situation. And one of the things that she says too that was really grounding, I think, is what somebody said in a review when I was reading them, and realistic as well, is sometimes you can try so hard to use your words. You could try so hard to communicate and, you know, heal and bridge that gap, but sometimes the other person just doesn't want it to happen. And you just have to let it go for your own mental health so that you're not dwelling on it, because Midori definitely does not have it easy. And it's interesting when you compare her backstory to these guys where they have closed themselves off. Midori continues to be very optimistic. She tries to be very hopeful. She tries, like, I think she tells Rei in the beginning, I don't want to make my life more miserable by dwelling on these negative things, because he's like, don't you hate your dad and what he did, leaving this debt, causing this pain on your family? And she's like, yeah, I call him a garbage dad. She's like, maybe that's not the best thing, but I don't want to dwell on that fact either. Now, what is great, and I won't go into this because it'd be spoilers, but a large part of this series is about these guys and them healing and them, you know, opening up to other people. I feel like that has the large focus of character growth is with these three guys. But when it comes to Midori, if you're like, well, she doesn't seem to be really growing as a character, I definitely feel like she is a catalyst more often than not to help push and encourage these guys, which I'm 100% here for, by the way. Like, I am not against that because I absolutely loved it. But when it came to the very final volume, she gets her moment of character growth too, where the rubber meets the road, I feel like would be a great way to explain it. And I really loved just how emotional and impactful that last volume was, specifically for Midori, and how she grows as well, not just all of these guys. But I have talked so much about these guys and I haven't talked about them individually. I don't know who is my favorite. I feel it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I will say, let's go with my least favorite, and that was Yuki here. I had a lot of mixed feelings. I did not like him. I think it was at the end of volume 1. I didn't like him in volume 2. And I was just like, I do not like this guy. I'm not going to go into my reasons for why, because if you read it, you know. And I'm just like, I just don't like you. And I called it in one of my reviews. So I was like, we're going to get a backstory about him, and my thoughts are going to change, and I'm not going to dislike him as much as I do right now. Sure enough, that is exactly what happened. By no means is he my favorite character through this series, but his character growth, I feel like, is the one that shines the most when you know, or when you learn his reasonings of why he wants his tight-knit group to stay as it is, and he doesn't want other people coming in trying to take his friends away. You're like, wow. It was very, very emotionally moving, and I did have more understanding for why he is. I definitely still don't agree. Like, he's very haughty in my opinion. Like, not like haughty as it like he's hot looking, but Haughty. He's very full of himself at times, and he can be, I don't know if bossy is the right word. I'm just like, oh, like some of his comments are really ruthless. I think Midori even says that, like, why you gotta call things out when that character already knows, because they're feeling it and they're just like, okay, so, but of course he's just calling it out. So he was not my favorite, but I feel like the character growth when it came to him was definitely my favorite, and it was very noticeable and like, wow, going from a character that I really disliked and just did not want to see anymore in this series to going to, okay, I'm starting to like you, to like, wow, I sort of miss you when you don't have a lot of page time, really spoke a lot to me personally. For the next guy that I think I'm going to talk about is Goshima. His name is Chihiro, and oh, he is a precious little bean. He is the MVP of this series. He can do no wrong. He is so sweet and just, he is amazing. Honestly, this series just shines when it comes to him and the actions that he makes and how he really does live this big brother role, even if he's like, no, I do not want to be the big brother, you know, to Rei and the other, and to Yuki. Like, no, I don't want to be their big brother, but he is. And when he sets his mind to something, he is 100% in, and he's very encouraging. He's a great listener. He may not be the brightest when it comes to studying, which had some great humor in my opinion, but he loves his family and he's very protective and he's willing to grow and to change. And I just thought it was a great part of this series. Like, I'm so glad that he's in it because he is a sweet young man, and I just always loved when he was on page because he was just fantastic. Like, he can do no wrong in my eyes, and I was really glad to see that other reviewers really loved his character. And I do second that if the manga decided to make a spinoff, I hope he would be one of the characters chosen because he's so great. And I feel like him having the Yakuza background and who he is as a young man was a very interesting part of his story and his life, because he did not live the typical Yakuza lifestyle, I guess, that in the way that I was expecting. We don't get a lot about that, honestly, so it's hard to say what exactly his goals were for his life, where he wanted his future to be. We don't really know because it's not, unfortunately, his main story, because the story mainly centers around Rei, who is the, more or less, I feel like, sort of like the main guy. Well, maybe he's not the main guy. Yeah, he's the main guy. He's the main guy. He's the one that gets the most page time and the one that interacts with Midori the most. And I liked him. He definitely makes not some of the best decisions at certain points in the series, but I was really glad that he acknowledges that and he knows that he did, and that he is like, I'm not going to do this again, ever. I will not make this mistake. And I'm like, thank you. thank you, because the one time that I wanted to throw my manga, it involved an action that he made, and I was just like, take a deep breath and go read the next volume to see what happens next. He has another very satisfying character growth in this story that I think is very rewarding as well, especially when it comes to his family. I really, really enjoyed those chapters because I think it was like volume 5 was one of my favorite volumes, and it's interesting because it doesn't have like a lot of romance, and somebody said that it's the most complex in the series, like that volume. And I think it's honestly true because when I was thinking back, like, well, what made this the best? And I'm like, well, I can't say much because spoilers, but it really was deep. And the themes that were starting to come into focus and starting to shine, and where the characters really having to think about their decisions, because depending on what decision they make, it's going to affect their future in a big way. And that could be negative or positive. So I really enjoyed his story of healing, how Midori really just changed his life. But again, it was just fantastic seeing all three of these characters grow and change, and the romance was everything. I really, really loved it. It's so clean and so wholesome. Like, if you were looking for a very sweet, slow burn with a gentleman of a man, this series definitely delivers. I feel like all of Yoko no Giri's work is that way, so I'd highly recommend all of them. But I feel like Those Not So Sweet Boys was definitely my favorite thus far. There was a lot of, I don't know if dimension is the right word. Like, I felt like all of her romances were really great, but there was a lot of layers to this series because it's not just a romantic story. It does remind me of Shortcake Cake in that sense, where like it starts off as a romance, you're getting all of those warm fuzzies and those butterflies, and you're seeing first love bloom, but then it goes into something deeper because of the family coming in and how it's affecting these characters and the decisions that they are making. I really really loved it. It was so beautiful. I really enjoyed this. It was truly such a delightful story. I enjoyed reading it so much, and I'm like, oh, I should have not taken so long. If you have not read this series, I would definitely recommend it. It's so wonderful. Again, it has those themes of family, healing, reconciliation, having good communication, and what that looks like. There's a few twists and turns. All of these characters, not all of them, but you know, quite a few of them do not always make the best decisions, and it leads to change, and it leads to them growing, starting to make really good decisions too, and it also leads to them growing and good things that are happening in all of their lives. And so I'm glad that it ended on a strong note. Again, I highly recommend it if you love clean romance, if you love slow burn romance, if you love stories where yes, you get the romance, but you also want something deeper. This is a series to check out. It's only 7 volumes, so it's a great quick read. Totally let me know, have you read this series? Have you read any of Yoko no Giri's other works? I would love to know, and which one is your favorite. If you have, totally let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!